Have you ever stopped to ponder what truly defines barbarism? A question as old as civilization itself, the concept of barbarism has been a constant companion throughout human history. Its roots can be traced back to the times of Greek antiquity, where the word barbarous was used to describe those who were foreign or different, those who didn't adhere to the Greek way of life. This ancient notion of barbarism, grounded in the idea of us versus others, has been inherited by the Western world, influencing the Roman Empire and pervading Christian religious doctrines. It has shaped our understanding of civilization, culture, and the very essence of human nature. But have we ever stopped to question this inherited understanding? Have we ever critically examined the lenses through which we perceive the world? To do so, we must first dismantle the dichotomy of exterior and interior barbarism. Exterior barbarism is the concept that the uncivilized, the barbaric, exist outside the boundaries of an established civilization or culture. It's the idea that barbarism is an external threat, something foreign and alien. On the other hand, interior barbarism suggests that the seeds of barbarism are sown within the confines of civilization itself. It's the unsettling notion that barbarism is not an external enemy to be conquered, but a latent potential within each of us. By examining these two perspectives, we can begin to see the trajectory of how our understanding of barbarism has evolved. We can start to acknowledge the prejudices and illusions that have been deliberately marked on exterior barbarism in an attempt to counterbalance the uncomfortable reality of interior barbarism. As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll find that barbarism is not as simple as civilization versus uncivilized. It's a complex and multifaceted concept, a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and insecurities, our struggles with identity and difference. So join us on this intellectual journey as we explore the question of barbarism in all its complexity and nuance. Often, we perceive barbarism as an external force, a threat to civilization. But is it truly so? Let's probe into this. We've been taught to view barbarism as an exterior danger, a looming shadow over our civilized societies. This perception is like a carefully constructed illusion, a smokescreen that distracts us from the true nature of barbarism. Yet, when we dig a little deeper, we find that this exterior barbarism might be more of a balancing act, a counterweight to what we could call interior barbarism. This is where the real intrigue lies. It's not about the outward threats, the brute forces that we've been conditioned to fear. It's about the hidden, the unseen, the barbaric tendencies that lie within us, within our societies and cultures. Now, let's consider the phrase, us and others. It's a simple expression, but its implications are profound. It's ingrained in our collective psyche, creating a divide between what we consider familiar and foreign, civilized and barbaric. This dichotomy has shaped our understanding of barbarism, placing it in a box labeled others, while we, the us, remain safely distanced. But as history has shown, this division is not as clear-cut as it seems. Over nearly 3 millennia, the meaning of us and others has shifted, adapted, and evolved. It's a living testament to our changing perspectives, our evolving understanding of barbarism. This expression, seemingly harmless in its simplicity, has been a catalyst for cultural conflict, a tool for defining identities, and a lens through which we view the world. It has, in many ways, determined the characteristics of different civilizations and societies, and has been instrumental in shaping their identities. Yet, it also raises a question that has been asked by thinkers from dominant civilizations and cultures. Who is the other? The answer to this question is not as straightforward as it might seem. It's a question that forces us to look beyond the surface, to delve into the depths of our collective psyche. Could it be that this exterior barbarism is but an illusion, a cover for something deeper within? What if the real barbarism lies not outside, but within ourselves? This question strikes at the heart of the concept of interior barbarism, a deep-seated notion that suggests that the true threat may not be the external forces that we so often fear. but rather our own personal demons, our individual capacity for cruelty and destruction. Interior barbarism is an introspective beast. It demands that we turn the lens of scrutiny inwards, examining not just our actions, but our motivations, our prejudices, our fears. It's not about the tangible acts of violence or aggression that we might associate with the term barbarism. Instead, it delves into the realm of thought and emotion, of bias and bigotry, of hatred and intolerance that can fester within the human heart and mind. This inward-looking perspective challenges us to confront our own potential for barbarity. It's an uncomfortable proposition, isn't it? To acknowledge that we each possess the capacity for such destructive behavior is unsettling, to say the least, but it's vital for our understanding of the true nature of barbarism. Yet, the prejudice against exterior barbarism often clouds our perception of this inner threat. We find it easier to point fingers at external forces, other cultures, other people, other ideologies, than to face our own shortcomings. This outward focus forms an illusion, one that allows us to distance ourselves from the harsh reality of our own potential for barbarity. But it's a dangerous illusion. By focusing solely on exterior barbarism, we risk overlooking the threat that lies within. We ignore the potential for harm that we each possess, the capacity for cruelty that can arise from fear or hatred or ignorance. This is the hidden threat of interior barbarism. The task then is to shed light on this hidden threat, to unmask the barbarism within ourselves. It's a daunting task, certainly, but it's one that's essential if we are to truly understand the nature of barbarism. Only by acknowledging and confronting this interior barbarism can we hope to address the issue in its entirety. Unmasking this hidden barbarism within us may be the key to truly understanding the nature of barbarism. The colonial period presents us with a vivid example of this dichotomy. It was a time marked by the aggressive domination of Europeans over newly discovered peoples, fueled by a sense of technological and administrative superiority. The barbarism displayed during this era was not just confined to the physical realm, but extended to the psychological and cultural domains as well. Let's take a moment to reflect on the stories that have been passed down to us. Stories of brutal conquests, of cultures trampled under the guise of civilization, of atrocities committed in the name of progress. These narratives paint a grim picture of a time when the line between civilization and barbarism was blurred. The Europeans, armed with advanced technology and a sense of cultural superiority, embarked on a journey to dominate and subjugate. They saw themselves as the bearers of civilization, bringing light to dark corners of the world. But the reality was far from this idealized vision. Instead, they subjected the indigenous peoples to a relentless onslaught of brutality and subjugation, all under the banner of civilization. This brings to mind Tsvetan Todorov's seminal work, The Conquest of America, The Question of the Other. In his book, Todorov alludes to this process as one of conscience, a process that raises the question, who is the barbarian? The Europeans with their advanced weaponry and brutal tactics, or the indigenous peoples who were simply trying to defend their land and way of life? Todorov's work challenges us to look beyond the traditional us versus them narrative and consider the complexities of human nature. It forces us to question our preconceived notions of barbarism and civilization and to recognize the capacity for both within each of us. In the face of such atrocities, we must ask, who is the real barbarian? In light of this, it's clear that our understanding of barbarism needs a radical shift. We've seen how the concept of barbarism has been twisted and manipulated over the centuries, used as a tool to further the agendas of those in power. This has resulted in a narrow and prejudiced interpretation that paints barbarism as something inherently external to civilization and culture. But what if we were to challenge this notion? What if, instead of viewing barbarism as something outside of ourselves, we began to recognize it within ourselves? This is the crux of the matter. the heart of the new interpretation of barbarism we're proposing, a dual perspective that acknowledges both exterior and interior barbarism, that sees the beast not just at the gates, but within the city walls. To achieve this, we must first overcome the prejudice that has been ingrained in us against exterior barbarism. This prejudice, rooted in ancient Greek and Roman ideologies and passed down through the ages, has served to create an illusion of barbarism as a force outside of ourselves, something to be feared and fought against. But, as we've seen, this is not the whole picture. By adopting a more introspective approach, we can begin to understand the interior barbarism that lurks within each of us. This is not a call to nihilism or self-hatred, but rather a call to self-awareness and understanding. We must recognize that barbarism is not a binary but a spectrum. It is not a case of us versus them, but rather a question of how we, as individuals and as a society, navigate the complex and often murky waters between civilization and barbarism. By embracing this new perspective, we can begin to grasp the complex nature of barbarism and pave the way for a more nuanced understanding of our own society and history.